acknowledgements are only the first step in fostering meaningful relationships with the Indigenous communities. But we strive to learn, to listen, and engage with respect and humility, acknowledging the ongoing effects of colonization and working towards a more just and equitable future for all. And then quick disclaimer, we're going to have some great conversations here and all that great stuff, but of course we have to add a little legal disclaimer here that we are early childhood professionals giving you guys great advice, but the contents of this presentation are for informational and educational purposes only. The speakers and panelists here tonight are not accountants, human resource professionals, lawyers, medical professionals, or financial advisors, and do not purport to be in any way. While the speakers and panelists here may provide limited education on the topic of early education, the group here tonight that is speaking with you advises that the participants seek into independent professional guidance and advice before taking on any action in related to accounting, financial, medical, or legal advice. Just a little bit of house rules before we get started. So you guys have already utilized the chat box. I want you to keep using that chat box tonight. I want you guys to talk to us, ask questions, put some emojis in the chat if you hear something really great that you really, really feel connected to. That's our way to make this virtual session even more alive for us. So use the chat box for any questions or to communicate with all of us. This session will be recorded, so if you missed any juice or any great details here, don't worry, we will have a recording for you to watch later on, and our team will send over details on how you can watch that recording, because we actually put the recording on our platform called the ECC Academy, hosted on Podia. So that gives you an opportunity to access this session and many other sessions at any time. There is a workbook that comes with this session, and the workbook is designed for you to, put little notes and details of what you've learned, but as well as there's post-session reflection questions that will challenge you to take what you've learned today from our amazing group of panelists and put that into action and to next steps. So I'll ask our wonderful assistant Jack to put the workbook in the chat for you, just in case you missed the email with it. Certificates. At the end of this session, we will be sending out certificates to everyone that participated. So if you haven't said your quick hello in the chat, please do so. Say hello so we can give account to who is here and who is listening, as well as those will be emailed out. So be sure to connect with our team to be able to get your certificate. And as I mentioned, this is a large group discussion. We're going to be here together as a group and facilitating some great conversations. So we are here together as a community. If you are on social media, be sure you are following us at the ECC.community, where you will get all the great information and wonderful stuff about our team, the amazing work that we're doing, as well as if you want to take any snapshots of you being here tonight, feel free to do that, but don't forget to tag us. And then what we have here is the ECC Learning Spaces. If you've been coming to the ECC Learning Lounge for quite some time, you should know this off by heart. But the Early Childhood Coach loves to encourage a really great and foster a really great community of learning together. And we do that through operating through our ECC Learning Spaces. And our learning spaces is giving you a space for growth. This is your time to have really great conversations about who we are as early childhood professionals, and find a space for us to grow and become the best version of ourselves. This is your space for safety. Know that when you ask any questions here, hear any discussions here, this is your safe space to have those discussions, because we are a community of early childhood professionals together. This is also your space for community and collaboration. This is your home for the next hour and a half or so. So feel that you are in a space of community with other people that understand your journey in early education. This is your space for reflection. We're going to have lots of questions that will get you to really think about your journey in early education. So this is your reflection space as well. And this is a space for belonging, because every single person here that can hear my voice belongs here. All right, so just a little bit of a cap over of what the ECC is, just in case you're new to the ECC and this is the first ECC Learning Lounge session you've come to. So the ECC is all about empowering the early childhood community. We do that through consulting, coaching, professional education, you name it. And we are a group of wonderful individuals that just have a deep passion for early education beyond borders. So we offer sessions such as sessions like this through the ECC Learning Lounges. And then we also go out into the community. We offer virtual and in-person sessions to empower the community. So what is really great about this session is you're actually going to meet some of the most powerful voices in this brand and get to hear their insight and their expertise. And these individuals have actually worked and done some amazing work in becoming facilitators. So you guys are going to get to hear their wonderful voices in the next little while. I'm Anisha. I'm the CEO of the Early Childhood Coach. And I am the, I guess you can say, the lead of this pack here. And I've been in the industry for quite some time, playing multiple different roles, from being in the classroom and being in leadership to now being the owner of the Early Childhood Coach and getting to, get really close to these individuals here that you will be listening to today, and come together as a group and prepare resources and tools to serve you as early childhood professionals. So that's a little bit about me. But tonight's not about me. Let me pull this down, because tonight ain't about me, you guys. I brought you guys some amazing individuals to top off this conversation today. So what's very interesting about this conversation, Jack, I'm not sure if you're able to pin us so everybody can see the lovely faces that will be speaking today, if they're not already pinned, sorry. Tonight is going to be a conversation about ECE appreciation, okay? We have it in Ontario every October. It's usually one day in the month, even though at the ECC, we celebrate it all month. Let's just be real. We celebrate it all month, but it's one day in the month where, we do something fun for the ECE community. Wonderful stuff. But for the ECC community, what the community that we've built, we really wanted to cultivate a really strong conversation on what it means to thrive and shine in ECE. And I think that there is no better way to do that than pulling in some amazing voices that are from the industry, and that is our ECC advisors and coaches. So I'm actually going to give a moment to give each of them an opportunity to introduce themselves. Before we get into some questions, I have some really hard-hitting questions for them that they're going to be doing some reflection and some sharing on some tips and tricks on what it means to thrive and shine in ECE. And then I also encourage you guys, if you guys have questions for them, questions about ECE or anything like that, please pop them into the chat, because even though I have my set of questions, I want to open up the floor to you guys as well. All right, so let me get started. Let's start with Sophie. Sophie, do you mind taking a moment to introduce yourself to the crowd today?
Yeah, for sure. Sorry. Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm an REC, and that's a registered early childhood educator, and I live and work in Ottawa, Ontario. I've been in the field as an REC for the last 10 years. It was just my recent anniversary, but I've been working with young children for the last 15 plus years. The majority of my work has actually been with young infants and toddlers, mostly with infants. Sorry. So the main focus of that has been my work. My current role is an early literacy specialist working within the young parent community. And I'm an ECC, ECE advisor and new facilitator.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sophie. All right, moving on to Natalie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie. So just like Sophie said, I am a registered early childhood educator. I am an advisor for the ECC and facilitator as well. So I'm definitely going to start off with that. Have lots of different experience and have been in lots of different roles, from classroom roles, management roles. Recently joined the early on team. So lots kind of under my belt a little bit, but I'm excited just to kind of speak to other educators and connect with you guys, and just kind of talk about things that we're not able to talk about on the day-to-day basis, but we all feel. So that's just a little bit about me, and I look forward to talking to all of you guys.
Thanks, Natalie. All right, moving over to Shelby.
Hi, thanks for joining us this afternoon. So I, along with these girls, am also a registered RECE and a facilitator with the ECC, which I love. I also identify as a lifelong learner, and I'm so blessed to sit on this board with these girls who continue to make me have my own aha moments every year or every day, not even every year. I have mostly center-based experience, and I have recently spent the last year and a half in home care. So that's been a very fun change for me. But thank you.
All right. Thanks, Shelby. All right. Now to Lisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa, and I've been an early childhood educator for the last 20 years, a passionate one for the last 20 years. Different experiences as well out of college. So I worked in a Montessori school, I was a nanny, I worked with kids on a cruise ship down in the Caribbean as well. So lots of different ages of experience and things like that. And currently I work for a public school board in Niagara, and I'm in the central role on the curriculum support team. And I also am an ECE advisor now and a facilitator. So I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lisa. All right. Last but not least, Taylor.
Hello, I am Taylor, and similarly to the rest of the lovely ladies here, I am a ECE and ECC facilitator. I've been in the field for about 10 years, and I'm currently in a director role, but have worked my way up to that. So lots of work within the classroom, and I'm looking forward to chatting with
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Taylor. So as you can see, we've got a powerhouse list of people coming with a wide range of experience in early childhood education. We all have the same passion and beat the same heart when it comes to early childhood education. So I am so excited to share the stage with all of them. So I'm just going to jump into the questions. We're going to get these questions going. I'm going to be asking them. As I mentioned, feel free to put any questions you have for us in the chat as we move along. All right, so first question I actually have for Shelby. Shelby, my question for you is, what initially inspired you to become an early childhood educator?
Well, that's a great question. I knew that I couldn't do something that was the same every day. I don't enjoy mundane tasks like some people do. And it's so wild to think that, because you talk about routine in childcare so often, but it's never the same. You never have the same kids, even if they are the same kids, the wind blows north and they are different. So I really wanted to do something that was different every day. And I love and have always loved the innocence and directness of children. They'll let you know if your fit is good or not, or if your activity was good or not. And I just really love spending my days learning with them. And then that's what really drew me in after a little bit of a placement to move forward with going to be an ECE.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, something about kids, let me tell you, something about working with children, you definitely need a special heart for them, but you also need thick skin because they will tell you what it is. Let me tell you. Thank you so much, Shelby, for sharing that. All right, so on the same length of, talking about our own personal journey and motivation, Natalie, tell me a little bit about a pivotal moment in your career that reinforced your passion for this field.
Ooh, a moment that comes to mind, I think a lot of people, especially if you were an educator in the pandemic, that I think for me was a real pivotal moment. I kind of like what Shelby said, I've always loved children. I've loved working in the field. I volunteered in the field before 18, and as soon as I turned 18, I didn't look anywhere else. I've never thought about anywhere else. That was always the direction. And during COVID, I just lost that passion. I was a zombie going to work. I thought about for the first time in my life doing something else, and was looking up other things that I knew I wasn't going to be passionate about, but it had to be better than where I was. And the pivotal moment actually came from another random ECE, and that is what is so important about community and collaboration. Is the center was closing down, and I was asked to call other centers to find out what they were doing. So that was the task I was given. And I called a random center and just said, hey, are you guys deciding to close? What is your plan? And I ended up having like an hour conversation with a random ECE who I don't even know her name at this point. And we somehow got into the conversation of me thinking about leaving the field. And she kind of just was able to bring me back to the reasoning as to why we do it. It was nice to hear someone who understood what I was feeling, who understood the exhaustion that comes with what we do. So I would say that was a pivotal moment for me. But the second pivotal moment for me would definitely be when I joined early on. So a lot of people see early childhood education as a very, very narrow road, and in some ways it is. But there is so much more to do. There's so many areas where our supports are needed. And I think joining the early on team really was a pivotal moment for me. And I feel like I found my area in education that was made for me. So I think that was my pivotal moment.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Natalie. You know what? There's something about community. There's something about community. And I think, this is where we were heading as a group at the ECC and building a community of support because we need each other. And, sometimes we go through the day-to-day motions of early education, the ups and downs, and it feels kind of lonely sometimes, right? You think that you're going through things on your own, but once you pull in and you have these conversations with people within the community, you really, really build that resurge of feeling that we're not in this alone, we're in it together. So I love the fact that you brought up community because community is so important. Amazing, amazing. All right, so let's continue on the rope of challenges and coping with different strategies and challenges that happen in ECE. So Lisa, tell me, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face as an ECE and how did you overcome them?
This is a double-edged sword question because it's also one of maybe the biggest rewards too. But I found that a big challenge was working with other people because they're like-minded, because we're all there because we love children, but they're still, we're still all individuals and we have different ideas and we have different theories. And when you come together and you have to, even in like full day kindergarten, there's the ECE and the teacher. I know in childcare, there's lots of staff that are in the same room, things like that. Sometimes it's a challenge because we do have different views, we have different perspectives, and sometimes coming together to create that common, planning or whatever it is a little bit challenging. So I think the biggest thing that I did was build relationships with those staff. So even though we're different, we have different perspectives, building relationships, even talking about things that are outside of work that are really nice and positive that you can talk to or have a shared common something. Maybe you have kids, and you can talk about your kids or things like that. But coming together and communicating. And also, there's even little things you can do, like at work, we have a little chart where we have everybody's favorite treats and things like that. And if we want to say thank you to somebody, or if we want to, just pay it forward or something, we have a list and we can say, I know you had a hard day here, I'm going to give you a coffee or something like that. It's just knowing them. So building relationships is one way that I overcame those challenges, as well as communication. And then just knowing that everybody has different perspectives. They all have different lived experiences, and just kind of stepping back and knowing that, a place of empathy. Where are they coming from? Why are they saying this? Why do they think this? And if you can't come to like a common ground, maybe you can sit down and talk about it and just carve out some communication time to work together, because we are there for the kids and we need to work together and get over that challenge. So yeah, just communication, sharing perspectives, and building relationships, I think helps.
Yeah.
A little coffee or treat.
Yeah, everybody loves
just
that.
to say thank you, or I see you, or I know you're having a bad day, or anything like that too.
Right, right. Just I think we all crave to be seen and heard, and sometimes it's this little things. It's the little things that really, really carry us through, which is great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lisa. And I think I love that question, and I love the way you answered it too, because it also talk to the fact that there will be challenges. I wish that I can sit here and say that we're never going to face challenges ever again, but that's not the reality of our situation. But Lisa gave some really great examples on us pulling in as a community, supporting each other, but then just building relationships with each other is a big aspect, which is great. Thank you so much. All right, so let's move on to rediscovering our why. And the question that I want to talk about specifically to my buddy Sophie is, what practices or activities help you maintain a sense of purpose and fulfillment in your work?
So something I really like to do, sorry, something I really like to do is I really like to reflect on my view of the child. I like to think about what do I think of children? What do I believe in children? What are my philosophies around children, education, things that help me move forward. So when I'm not sure about what my why is, I'm able to deeply go back into myself and think about why am I here? And a lot of the times when I do that, I reconnect internally with educators that were there for me, people who have helped move me forward, how I was raised, how I've interacted with children, what I've learned about children. So I really think deep reflection is definitely a very big part of my reconnection to why. Another thing that I do is in my role, I'm half on the floor, half off the floor. So I go and I snuggle a baby. I am lucky. I am in a center that has 40 baby spots, and I can go snuggle a baby and really bring myself back down to the root core of why I'm there, which is the infants and their care and their love, and that love they give back to me. So I like to go reconnect with the children after thinking about why am I here? What is my place with them? How am I amongst their community? So that's a really big part of my why. And I think it also goes back to what Lisa said. It's reflecting on relationships and how we connect with others. So that's my big one.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Sophie is our infant guru, so it definitely didn't surprise me when she mentioned that. But even like in general, like even like in my perspective of when I was in leadership, sometimes you got to step out of that office and take some time and just be with the children to bring you back to your why. So I'm going to take a slight pause for a second and do something a little bit different here. I want to challenge everybody in the audience to do one thing for me. So I am a firm believer that every single person here in early education has a why. And your why is a pivotal moment in early education where you said to yourself, you know what? This is my groove. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is what makes me happy. This is what brings me joy. I want to give you guys about 5 minutes in the chat to let us know what is your ECE why. And I'll give you a moment to think about it and give you a moment to reflect. And I want you to type it in the chat what your why is. And I really wanted to stop here mainly because in everything that we do it from our why. And sometimes we need a reminder of what that why is. So I'm going to give a couple minutes and I want you guys to let us know in the chat, what is your ECE why? I will give everybody another 2 minutes, but I want you to continue to type if you're typing, because I think the collective of seeing everybody write their whys down, I think it's so beautiful. And sometimes we need the opportunity to see others to also be connected to ours. So I'm actually going to read the two that are here. So Sharon says, my ECE why would be grounded in a commitment to nurturing the early years of life when children are most impressionable and developmentally sensitive. I believe that high quality early childhood education sets the foundation for a child's emotional, cognitive, and social growth. Supporting children during this formative period not only benefits their future success, but also contributes to a more compassionate and equitable society. My why is the children. I love that, Sharon. Beautiful. I know, snaps. I love that. All right, Alexa, our buddy Alexa here says, my why is to be the best person I needed when I was growing up. Oh, I feel that. So heavy. I'm a current student, RECE, an aspiring teacher. I look back at my own childhood and remember that I really needed someone there for me and was not able to have that connection and truly strong relationship with anybody. I want to be that safe space for children to come to on a good day and on a bad day and on an off day or just their best day ever, just to tell me about it, just so I can be an ear for them to listen. I think it's so important to have someone in your corner growing up, and I want to be that person to every child I meet. Beautiful. Thank you, Alexa. All right. I see Vicky says, for me, my why is definitely the fact that I always wanted to be an educator when I was a child. Always played teacher. How many of us played teacher? I think all of us. I think the rite of passage to be an ECE is to play teacher. And now that I'm in the field for 11 years, every day I'm reminded that the reason I'm here is that I had such a great JKSK experience, and I wanted to always be with the younger children. Even though I'm a supervisor now, I spent the first 6 years in a classroom, enjoyed it, and now I love the fact that I can go spend time with them at any time when they need me, sometimes even ask for me, but also to be in the office and can be a support to other educators as well. Beautifully put, Vicky. I love that. I love that. If you haven't put your why in the chat, please continue to do so. Don't think because we're moving on, it's no longer relevant. I want you to have the moment to be able to share your why with all of us. We can have this collective community, because as I said, the field is tough. We go through so much every day that we lose sight of what our why is. We're human, it happens. But having these beautiful conversations where it allows you to sit down and reflect and share will bring us back to it. So I love that. So continue to share if you are sharing in the chat. I'm going to move back over to our questions to our panelists here. They've got us going and they've got us sparked up, which I love. We're going to move over to the self-love and personal well-being now that we're talking about our why and ourselves. So Taylor, what self-care strategies do you recommend for ECEs to maintain their well-being?
Oh, it's such a good question. And I'm so glad I got this question because self-love is so important to me. We work in a field that requires constant engagement, constant touching. You know, your kids are all over you, giving you hugs and all that good stuff. And it can be exhausting. I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes, especially when I was working in the classroom, I would come home and I would be so touched out. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want anyone to touch me. I needed a minute to just be by myself and do my own thing. So one way that I did that was by just having a way to get out that like energy from the end of the day. So on my drive home, or if you're taking the bus or whatever, I always like to listen to a podcast. I like to sit in, I like to put my headphones in, don't talk to me after work for like half an hour, just so I can rejuvenate and have my brain go back to normal. And then I always am a big advocate for creating boundaries, right? So really maintaining that work-life balance. When work is done, trying to put that away and just going home and enjoying something that you're doing. So I love to cook, I love to read, I love to take like a long bath at the end of the day and just refresh my body, especially, I'm sure Sophie can speak to this, or anyone who is in an infant room. I worked in an infant room for like 6 months, and I give everybody all those kudos because carrying babies around all day is exhausting on the body. So anything that you can do to really honor the needs of your mind and your body, and really just taking that time to rest and rejuvenate at the end of the day, is so important. Meditation, do that meditation first thing in the morning before you go to bed. It's going to make the world of a difference.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Taylor, for sharing those strategies. And of course, if there's any other panelists that want to chime in at any time for these questions, please feel free, because I know these questions can be all over the place in terms of how we're feeling. I'm actually going to head back to the comments for a quick second to share a couple more of these whys. So Christina says, make sure I'm reading the right next one. Yes, Christina says, knowing that I can make a positive impact in children's lives, helping to guide them and their learning and witnessing important milestones. It's easy for me to care, but what better place to share my gifts? Wonderful. I love that. And Dahlia, definitely let me know if I said your name incorrectly, and correct me in the comments if I said it incorrectly, please. For the love of children and the honor of being part of their educational journey and their holistic development in all domains. Yes, I love these. As I mentioned, keep sharing in the chat if you want to showcase your why, because these are beautiful. All right, heading over to the questions again. So we're going to be talking about professional growth and development. So it's great to talk about well-being. It's great to talk about our why and the challenges, but really what is key and pivotal in our field is professionally growing as professionals in this field and what that looks like for us. So Lisa, tell me a little bit about how do you continue to grow and develop professionally in your role as an ECE?
I love this question too. It goes back to collaborating with others, I think, too, because if we're siloed and we're by ourselves, we only know what we know. So it's very important to continue learning with talking to other people. If you have other educators in your building that you can go to next door, if you're at a school or a center, go over and talk to them, see what they're doing, see what ideas they have. It might be a different age group in that, but that's okay. You're still learning. You can still modify activities and things like that for your age group or whoever you're working with. Also joining things like this, so online and offline professional development. I love to keep learning. So, and sometimes I shy away from topics that I'm maybe not thinking I'm too great in. Maybe like early math is a little bit of a point with me where I'm like, oh no, I don't know too much about that. I'm not going to go do that. But that's when we should be going. That's what we should be doing. We should be getting a little bit uncomfortable with ourselves instead of always going to things like, oh, I love reading storybooks. I'm going to that one. I'm going to storybook provocations. I'm going to storybook this. I'm going to literacy this. And then never going over to math or something like that because I'm a little bit uncomfortable, say, or whatever. But that's when we need to, that's when we do grow, is when we push ourselves to be uncomfortable and learn more about things that maybe we don't know too much about. And it's okay to say, I'm not sure, or I don't know too much about that. Like, we're not all experts or anything. We don't know everything. So it's nice just to push ourselves and be a little bit uncomfortable and go to those things. I encourage you to, as well, to go to things that maybe you don't know too much about, or you're a little uncomfortable about, or it's something that you normally wouldn't attend, and push yourself that way. So offline and online communities as well, and professional development. So yeah, just talking to others, going to professional development. And again, like you said, I'm a lifelong learner as well, Shelby. So yeah.
Love that. Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, growth is hidden in the things that we don't really want to do, right? Usually our comfort zones is where it's most comfortable, but growth is not behind those comfort zones, let me tell you. We know that already. Sometimes we need somebody else to tell us, right? All right, so on the same boat of professional growth and development, Sophie, can you share any resources or training programs that you have done that has been particularly beneficial to you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really lucky. I work in a space where professional development has been super active for the last 10 years. So I am really into infant and early mental health. So I always like to recommend the infant and early mental health promotion team at Sick Kids Children's Hospital, which provides all kinds of trainings. And like I got to meet one of the educators from that team last week, and it's just amazing to get to see the work that they're doing and apply it to our work and really learn about the brain and how it applies to the children that we work with. Another one that's super fun to me is Sesame Workshop, because Sesame Workshop, not only do they provide workshops and resources for children, they provide really, really beneficial resources for educators and parents. Like if you want to learn about supporting a child through a hurricane, where we might have some people here who are supporting families through a natural disaster. They have videos, they have coloring pages, they have supports, they have all kinds of resources that help families going through all types of things. Like I've never seen such a diverse and inclusive website as Sesame Workshop, available for educators and families. So I recommend them. Another amazing one is 0 to 3, which they've been updating all of their programs to be a lot more educator focused, and they focus on the first 3 years and mental health and development and everything that's happening for children and families. So I think those are such great resources for educators, and they offer a ton of trainings that are free, articles, videos, podcasts, all kinds of stuff that's really rounded and diverse. And then another big resource, you have it within yourself, is the ability to be playful. Get out there and play. Like when you want to learn about loose parts, one of the best things you can do is sit down on the floor and build with Legos and play. Do it without the children. I want you to go home and have this time by yourself and play and interact and really get into it, because hands-on, we talk about how synapses are built through play more often than sitting down and reading a workbook. So we should also be doing the same for ourselves and giving those opportunities to play. So catch me in the staff room with a messy art activity.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing, Sophie. Such wonderful, wonderful ways to support your growth and development as early childhood professionals, and allowing us to be in a space where, growth is a big part of our journey. But then I think also leaning into the vulnerability that us as educators, we don't know everything. And I think that's one of the things we struggle with a little bit, is not having the answers to everything, because we want to be everything to everybody. But having, access to this resources means, I don't have the answer now, but I have a resource that can support me. So I love those examples. I'm going to go to the chat and for another minute here. I see what Sharon has put here. For me, it's a combination of reflection and continuous professional learning. Great combination there. Evelyn says, I took ECE because I love children. I love teaching them. Children are vulnerable. They need love, care, support, and attention. So as an RECE, the affection that children need, especially if they think that they're being neglected by their parents. Absolutely. I think one of the things that I talk about in my DEI workshops, and it actually connects to everything anyways, is sometimes the classroom is a home that a child doesn't have. Sometimes they're not allowed to have certain conversations at home, or maybe they don't feel comfortable, or maybe their parents don't have the answers. They don't have the answers for them. And maybe it's just, I remember, working with a teacher just talking about her why being about, when she grew up, she was always the child that was always spoken over. She never had a voice. She was very quiet in the classroom, and her why became seeing the child in every classroom that doesn't have a voice, and making sure that that child has a voice in the classroom. So sometimes we're doing these powerful things, and I love that you shared that, Evelyn, because sometimes we're that classroom that gives that child the confidence that they need to soar in life. So I love that. Wonderful. All right, heading over to the questions again. Let's go back to community and support. I think we had a really, really great going there, and I really want to leave that note of community. So Natalie, tell me, how important is community and peer support for ECEs, and how can educators cultivate this in their own environments?
That's a great question. I think that it's funny that it kind of connects with what I was saying before, but it is so important, and it's important for all positions, for all organizations. We have a very heavy job, as Taylor was saying. We come home at the end of the day and we're drained. We have nothing left to give to anyone else, let alone ourselves. And the only people that will understand that is us, right? So collaboration and community is just such an important thing for you to be able to remember your why, but also dissect the effects that what you do have on yourself as well. Some ways that you can kind of connect with other people is through organizations like this, that you're able to have these vulnerable and raw conversations with one another, and you're able to do it in the way that you feel comfortable. Not everyone wants to be on a screen and verbally tell everyone, you know, what they're struggling with, but maybe they're comfortable going in a chat. And also using the free resources that are for you. I know in the region of Peel, we have workshops and facilitations. I took a recent workshop that was about compassion fatigue. And it kind of touches base on what Taylor was saying as well, is we say it all the time, how do you fill from an empty cup? But understanding how can you support yourself, and that way you can support your team members, you can support the people that are depending on you, whether you're in a supervisor position and you're having to uplift your staff members when you don't have anything left, or you're in a classroom and you have nothing left. However, you have to now uplift your room partner or uplift the children themselves, right? So I think it's important for us to understand that whatever we feel it's not individually to you. It's not something that only you are feeling. If you were to, you know, talk to the classroom next door and say, there must be a full moon outside because these kids are going crazy. I promise you, because we all know about that full moon and how it does something to them. But I'm sure if you were to have that vulnerable conversation with a room partner or with someone in the ECC or just the ECE community, they'll be able to sympathize in ways that other people in other professions wouldn't be able to. So I think to wrap it up, the most important thing to do is use the resources that are provided to you. We live in an era of technology where you can join groups and you can join things like the ECC and stay connected with other educators. Use those to your advantage. If you're an organization, as Sophie was saying, if you're an organization that allows for workshops and facilitations and all those kind of things, use that up as well. I know at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is sometimes sit and do workshops, but think about how it's benefiting you and how you are connecting with people within your own field as well. So it's very, very important, and it's important for us to connect with one another and just be vulnerable and honest with the ups and downs of what we do in this field and the ways that we can better support one another.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. Yes, there's strength and vulnerability. I love the fact that you said that, Natalie, because I think sometimes we think being vulnerable is a sign of weakness, when really it's a sign of strength to show that we're human. We're human. We have the same emotions. We bleed the same blood and all those aspects. And, you know, but you know, those conversations are so important, especially within our community. So I love that. All right, so let's talk about some inspiration. Shelby, inspo, give me some inspo, okay? Can you share a success story or a moment that particularly touched you and reaffirmed your dedication to early education?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I wish I could say that I had a bunch of success stories, but I feel like there's a few that really just stick out to me, and they're not actually with children.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite success stories come from when I used to work as a director. I worked in a tier 3 center. So for some of you that don't know, that means you have extra visits from the Ministry of Education. You have bigger checklists when they come through to do your licensing. And I wish I could tell you that I got us out of that, but I did not. That my bigger success story is how my team came together with me. I found, like everyone has been kind of pitching today, with the open and honest communication, putting your heart on your sleeve and telling them why we're doing this, because sometimes you forget. You're isolated in a room with your 15 toddlers or your 21, 24 preschoolers, 10 babies. You forget that the center is a bigger thing. And when you're treated like you're just a room, or when you're treated like you're just a body, you know, we've all been there. You forget that there's a common goal, and we're all there for the children, and that the licensing requirements, no matter how tough they may be, are there for the children. So my biggest success story was I had not even the oldest ECE that had been there for the longest. It was just somebody who I think burnt out and forgot their ECE why. So I went to them and I just was open and honest and put my heart on my sleeve and was like, hey, what can we do to get you back to you? I have seen you in the greatest times. I've seen you in the worst times. And I know that you're a wonderful educator and I know that you can do these things, but do you know that you can do these things? And it turned into a very girly moment where we cried and I was crying. I wish I could say I was a sympathetic crier, but I'm just, I just have to cry too sometimes. It was just one of those moments where no one had connected with her for so long, and she had been in a room of 5 toddlers, felt like the world forgot about her. And I remember the one thing she said to me is like, for the first time, I feel seen. Yeah, that's, you can see why I was crying now. It was just so emotional, and it brought to me inspiration to check in with everybody else. So hearing that, I was like, well, if you feel that way, do other people feel that way who are in rooms with people? Because then you hear, oh, it's just me and this person against the world. We've got our 15 or 10 toddlers, and it's just her and I trying to make it through transitions in the day. And it just really, really made me self-aware and reaffirmed that I needed to be dedicated to my staff so that the staff could be more dedicated to the children. So in a roundabout way, I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. And it showcases the power of impact in our roles within early education. I think we really overlook the little things and how much of an impact it can make. So the fact that early childhood educator that you were connected with felt like they haven't been heard or seen or whatever the case may be, and you just asked a simple question and immediately it made them feel seen and heard. And I bet you if I was to do a workshop with them, they'll tell me about the moment that they had an amazing leader that did that. That's what it's about. That's what early education is about. It's about creating those moments of impacts for not just the children and the families, but also within our own community. So I love that example, Shelby. I see Vicky says, I find it so hard to have times to even do these check-ins with staffs, especially now with staffing. We used to do it every so often, but now it's like, oh, maybe you get quick 15 minutes, which sometimes is just not enough. Absolutely, Vicky. And I think the beauty about our team at the ECC, we actually get it. We understand that it's not as easy because we have a long list of things we've got to accomplish every day. One of the things I can say, Vicky, to support you is in one of my workshops, I talk about, appreciation languages and all of that great stuff. One of the things that I talk about is building a culture of appreciation in your center. And what that does, it actually takes the pressure off of you being the only person doing that, because where are my leaders at? Let me know where you're at in the chat. We have no time to do anything. We barely have time to have a lunch. Let's be real. So to think about having those central moments with every single person on our team feels very impossible, especially if we have massive centers with like hundreds of staff. So one of the goals that I always challenge leaders to really have is building a culture and a community of appreciation where everybody's doing it together. So it's not just on you, it's everybody together appreciating one of others and all of that stuff as well. So definitely I want to leave that with you, Vicky. Beautifully. All right. So let's stick with inspiration. I know we probably have a few new educators here that are listening in. We don't want to forget them. Lisa, what advice would you give a new educator who is just starting their journey in the field?
Oh boy, so many things. Um, I think one thing that I would say is no matter what happens at home, no matter what happens on the way to work, no matter what happens anywhere else, it's to leave those things at the door when we're going into our classrooms and just give those kids 110% of us if we can. And there's going to be a lot of other challenges in our lives outside of, our work with our kids. And I think if we just remember that always, just to kind of keep that at the door. And when we go in, we're giving our all to those kids. They deserve our 110%. So being positive with them, being happy no matter what's going on, that is in the back of your head. But being there, being present for those kids is just so crucial and so important for them to have that really good early childhood experience for them. They want to know that, you're there for them. They want to know that you're, their cheerleader and that you're happy and positive. And of course, they're going to give that back to you too. And then you're going to feel way better than when you went into work. So it's reciprocal. It really is. So I think that's one piece of advice. Also, I sometimes I get thank you cards from parents or pictures from kids. I keep those. So keep those. If you get pictures from children or anything they want to give you or they make you something, thank you cards maybe from parents, and or even like little sticky notes, put up like really happy moments and just like keep those somewhere in a little book or on a cupboard or something. And on those really tough days, open up that little box of thank you cards or happy moments or pictures from the kids, and it just reinforces the reason why you're there and you're doing what you're doing. And again, that why piece too, because we might have some hard days. So yeah, just a couple little pieces.
I love those. I love those. I know we get boxes and boxes of cards sometimes, and also just the pictures. Like they might just put like a little scribble on it and be like, "Oh, Miss Lisa, that's you." And okay, it's not like a huge picture, whatever the case may be, but it kind of just brings you back again to that why. To that why. And I think even as new educators in the field, we still need the reminder of why, because sometimes we come out of our ECE programs, we're brought to reality of what the field really looks like, and we ask ourselves, do we really want to be here? But there's a reason why we even took the course to begin with, right? So that also goes for the new graduates, new educators coming in. I love that. I'm seeing some great things in the chat here that I want to read to. Alexa says, so true. Kids remember when you're upset. Oh yeah. Being present is so imperative for their own well-being too. Yes, absolutely. Sharon says, I would say be patient with yourself. It can be overwhelming, but give yourself grace. You're learning and growing every day, just like the children you work with as well. I love that you mentioned that, Sharon. I in another workshop that I do about burnout, one of the tips that I leave with educators and professionals is to stop being so hard on yourself. Because early childhood educators, I've never seen a group of people that is just so hard on themselves, but it's because we live in a world where we just want everything to be perfect for the children and the family. So you can't blame us, but definitely giving yourself the same compassion that you give to the children and families is very warranted as well. So I love that that's mentioned as well. All right, so let's talk about the future of early childhood education, because we're looking forward into the future. Taylor, what changes or innovations do you hope to see in the early childhood field in the coming years?
I think I want to go back to something that Sophie had touched on and talk a little bit about mental health. I feel like the whole topic of what we're talking about today is we're talking a lot about how difficult our jobs are and how much goes into our jobs, and reconnecting with our whys and doing all of that. And I think that I would really love to see more coping strategies and resources and things coming out specifically for early childhood educators on how to support their mental health and how to go about that day to day. Exactly what Lisa was just touching on and what you were just touching on, Anisha, and really bringing back that connection, because I feel like that disconnect, and like Shelby was speaking about this, like it really messes with your mental health, and it makes you feel like you're not doing a good job and you don't have those connections. So I would really love to see some more innovative ways on how we can support that mental health between us and also with the children, because I think we're seeing a lot of kids, at least I am, that I can kind of see struggling with, whether that be mental health or just in their lives. And it's not easy. And it's especially hard when, you have a child who might be dealing with some behaviors. Maybe that's biting, or maybe that's being rough with their friends, and you're talking to their parents constantly and they're seeing that, and it's affecting them, right? To be that child that nobody wants to play with because they're being bitten, and it's hard and it's difficult, and it's I would love to just see more ways that we're able to support them. And I would love to see more responsible use of technology. So I think that technology has kind of taken away that connection within early childhood educators and the children. 9 times out of 10, we're sitting down, we're trying to get all our documentation and photos uploaded on the iPad. And there's a child here that's screaming for attention and screaming for you to be a play partner, right? And so really finding that technology can be such a powerful tool, but if it's used in a way that can be hands-on, and instead of focusing on that, getting those photos uploaded, focusing more on how we can use technology to interact with our kids on a day-to-day basis and focus on those strong partnerships with the families and the kids alike.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love that. Shelby, you wanted to add to that, my friend?
I would love to. I think mental health support too, but we are one of the only fields that don't have mandatory benefits. You have so much strain on your body just physically. Like if we leave out the top part, lifting kids onto the change table, they are literally sneezing in our mouths. And we are showing up to work the next day with a bottle of Dayquil, tea, and probably neti pots for everybody who's been there, because I've been there, where you can't take a day off because you don't get sick days either. I don't think that it's innovative or that it's a crazy ask, but it is just something to feel seen or heard. And alongside that, a lot of benefits now do have mental health support. It's not enough, but at least if we can physically take care of our bodies, we might be able to maybe care for our mental health a little bit more. That's just what I wanted to add.
Beautifully put, both Taylor and Shelby. There's a lot, there's a list, there's a laundry list we can add. Actually, Sophie, let's add. I want to see your hand. I want to see you add to this too.
I just wanted to say, yay, I'm so excited that we're talking about mental health here, because I think it really goes into the dynamics of the relationships that we're building, that mental health of the children and mental health of the educator are being seen more and more. I wanted to share a program that my educator is engaged with, which was Circle of Security Educators, and it's based on a parenting program. And one of the tools that they taught us that has been so powerful for our educators, we were already kind of using the WrestleMania tap out tool. I don't know if anybody else is using tap outs, but like if you're in a situation with a family or a child where you need to tap out, we're really good at using the tap out use in that. But a tool that I think of a lot that has been very helpful for my educators is shark music. So when you're working with a child or you're doing something in your work or even in your personal life, and you start getting that heebie-jeebie in your belly and you hear the da-da, 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 the shark is coming. It's about reflecting in those moments where the shark music is coming up and reflecting on what's pulling this out of me. What can I draw in from myself, and how can I start working on this to make it smoother when the shark comes to the water? Let's turn that shark into Nemo. So my educators, I've seen some of them, if they're working with a child, like there's a child screaming today about his shoes, and I had an educator say, shark, shark. And I took over. I said, oh, you know what? Your teacher needs a moment. I'm going to step in and be that person for you right now. It's okay. I'm right here for you. They will be right back. It's all right. And we just had that moment where we turned that moment into calm together, because we were able to tap out, reflect on ourselves, and that educator can come back later and say, you know what, maybe it was the screaming, maybe it was them saying no, maybe it was the situation I was in that was making it my shark music, and maybe next time it will be Nemo. So try and find yourself when you're in those moments. Look for your shark music and WrestleMania tap out. I think that's a tool we can all use when that happens.
Oh, I love these connections. I love these connections. Let me tell you, I love this group. I love this group. Okay. All right, Natalie, add to the fire. Let's see.
So I'm just gonna bring it up. If we're talking about things we want to see change and be different, we need to be recognized. We need to be paid for what we do. That is the elephant in the room that I'm sure everyone is kind of thinking. And we all know if we're in this field, it's not for the money. That's not necessarily the reasoning why I think anyone in this chat chose this field. We chose it because we love children, we love making a difference. But not only do I think that needs to change, I think they as a whole, we need to be seen as how crucial and critical we are to society, and also kind of where we are right now. If you're in management, you understand the lack of educators there are, the decline, and the amount of people who are not taking the course, the amount of people who took the course and are not working in the field, or worked in the field for 20 years and are leaving the field. I really hope within the next year, very wishful thinking, but I hope that they really look at what's happening. They have, if you're in Ontario, they have great things that are going on, and supporting families and all that great things for people who have chosen to opt into that program. But looking at that at hand and saying, okay, well, how can we then now support the educators who are the ones that are going to be fulfilling this amazing plan that they have to make childcare more affordable. So I really just hope within the next year we're seen and we're recognized. And I think being seen and being recognized in both financial and just in our impact in society will then start to draw people back into the field, which is the issue at hand when we really look at it. So that's the elephant in the room that I wanted to address.
What's a bigger animal than an elephant? Because I think whatever you said is like a bigger animal than an elephant, because like you said, we're not in this for the money, but I think it's about time that the money should come. Look at the stuff that we go through on a daily basis. I always give the example of, we've had many examples of whale, shark, whatever, white shark, yes. I always give the example of like COVID happened. They shut every single daycare, childcare center down. And what did they have to do? Open it right back up, because society could not run without us early childhood professionals. For me, I thought that was it. We're still here, but I think the more collectively we have these community conversations and build each other up, right? Build each other up, and use our voices in as many ways possible. I really feel like we will hopefully see a difference. I love this. All right. We're going to switch gears for a little bit, because I know that for a lot of educators, when I've worked with a lot of actually, I see a question here related to COVID. Let me answer that, Alexa. I wonder if we did that without COVID, what would happen? How badly would they need ECEs now? There would have been something else that happened. There would have been something else that happened in our world, whether it's COVID or something else, where they needed us. Because no matter what, they're going to need us no matter what. But I love that question, Alexa. I was saying that a lot of educators, especially new educators coming in, and even regular educators, they find it really hard to connect with families and engage with families. And because we're talking about thriving in the full extent, I want to be sure that we don't overlook that. So let's talk about handling difficult conversations, Natalie. I want you to walk us through, how do you handle difficult conversations? Because Natalie is our family specialist. So let's hear her drop some gems in terms of handling difficult conversations with families.
The first thing I'm going to say regarding this is difficult conversations happen for many different reasons. But the easiest way in our field when it comes to difficult conversations with families specifically is the connection you have with them. When you're having difficult conversations with families and with even some coworkers, how well do you know this person? Do you know how they like to receive information? And if you're having that difficult conversation with a family, whether it be simple things like losing socks. If you've lost a sock in your room, you know how detrimental that can be. God forbid it's a hat or something. But conversations like that seem so simple, or conversations about behavior. We talked about that a little bit. That is a difficult conversation to have with families. But before we address that, we have to ask ourselves, how comfortable is this family with me? How much does this family trust my judgment with their child? So especially if you have a new family coming into your site, and let's say we're educators, we see children very often. So we very quickly may pick up if the child needs additional supports, or, if the child has some behavior that we want the parents support in, we have to ask ourselves, is this the time? So that's something that I teach my staff all the time. You guys, as I said before, I work in early on programs. So it looks very different than childcare, but we have to ask ourselves, is this the right moment to have this conversation? Is this something that needs to be handled urgently, or is there more connections that I need to build with this family in order to have that difficult conversation? I think another thing that's needed to have difficult conversations is self-reflection. Are you ready for that conversation? I know what it's like to be on your last straw in life, and then right before a parent comes to pick up, that child decides to just walk into a pool. And now I'm at zero. I have nothing left to give, and I now have to explain to this parent why their child is injured, right? So it's important to understand how you running on zero and having these conversations affect the outcome of that as well, right? So I think the number one thing I always tell people, and I'll end with this, is build the connection with the child. Build the connection with the child. If the connection is there, the conversation will be a lot easier. The same way in your life, if a stranger was to come and tell you something about yourself versus someone who you trust, the reactions are going to be different. If someone on the side of the road tells you something about yourself, you're going to be like, what do you know? You don't know me. You don't know anything about my life and all that stuff. The same thing goes with families. Don't try to cross that boundary if you don't think it's time. So always ask yourself, is it the right time to have this conversation?
Love it. Love it. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yep. Goes hand in hand for parents, but then also, as Natalie said, in any relationship. So for my leaders that, may be having some issues with, having hard conversations with staff, that's usually the foundation of it as well. Relationship building. If people know where you're coming from, they're going to be able to hear you a lot better. So I love that example. All right. So we're getting to the end. Wow, so quickly, kind of, sort of. I've got a section of questions about advice for thriving. And I actually don't have specific people for it because I would love to kind of hear from everybody on what it is when it comes to, thriving. So the first thing I'm going to ask, and I'll ask each panelist here, is what does thriving as an early childhood educator mean to you personally? Let's start with Taylor.
I would just say continuously growing. And I think that's what we're all doing today, right? We're all taking the time out of our evening. We've all had busy days, I'm sure of it. But we're taking the time to sit here and reflect and grow. I think that that is so important, and it's how we show up each and every day, right? If you're showing up to your job or even just in your life and you have the mindset that you are willing and you're ready to grow, you will thrive. And that's going to have that, you're going to have that open mind. You're going to go in, you might not grow that day, and that's okay. So don't strive to be perfect in that growth, because that's not going to happen, but just have an open mind about it and really be ready to do that.
Beautiful. All right, Lisa, what do you think? What does thriving as an early childhood educator mean to you?
I love what Taylor said too. And I think thriving is being passionate, bringing your all, and never stop learning, like she said. And I think we have to think, always have that in the back of your mind, to aspire to inspire. And that's what I always think. I always think I want to aspire to inspire, whether it's a child, another educator, parent, something like that. So aspire to inspire.
I love that. I love that. We need to put that on a t-shirt. Let's get some ECC t-shirts. I love it. How about you, Shelby? What does thriving as an early childhood educator mean to you?
Well, I loved your answers. However, for me, thriving is being financially and mentally supported by my workplace so that I can arrive through the door and take on the stress of the day without having, how am I going to pay my water bill in the back of my head? So again, great answers, but thriving for me, just the financial support.
Yes, and it's the realness. Let's get real. That's what we need. That's what we need. I love that, Shelby. All right, Sophie, what are you thinking? What does thriving look like to you as an ECE?
Well, my brain is just going 30, flirty, and thriving right away. But for me, it just like what Shelby said, definitely financial stability, having that that base where I feel safe and good and finance wise, but also just in general having that secure base where I feel like I'm falling back as an educator and I'm still comfortable. The mattress is good. I want to be there. My desire to grow and learn is still there. So it's that kind of element is where I feel like I'm thriving, is when I feel like my secure base is supporting me to keep being me in the most powerful ways I can be.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, Natalie, what does thriving look like for you?
I am going to piggyback off what Shelby said, not financial, but I think thriving looks very different for me. It is important, but I think thriving for me looks different every day. I think that as educators, we know that sometimes thriving is making it to the end of the day. Sometimes thriving is accomplishing something that you never thought you were going to get completed. Thriving sometimes is getting through to that coworker that you thought you were never going to get through to, or that parent understanding your point of view that you never thought they were going to, or that new child in your classroom sleeping for the first time for the entire 2 hours. Thriving looks so different every day. And I think the greater scheme for me, I feel like I'm thriving when things are aligned from the top down. When you think of it in an organizational structure, as I don't remember, somebody was saying it, when they feel supported by, I think it was Shelby as well. When I am somewhere where I feel aligned, I feel like the person who owns the company and the floor person who's on, we have the same mission, we have the same understanding of why we do what we do, and we're all working towards the same goal. I cannot thrive in an organization or a structure where I feel like what I want and what my staff want is different than what the person who is instructing us to do wants as well. So those are the two sections. Sips tea. Those are the two sections that I would say I need to thrive in as an educator.
Yep, sipping my iced tea, because that was tea. Let me tell you, I think I might have to send this video to a couple of owners here. Anyways, love it, love it. I think everybody has a perspective on what thriving looks like for them, and I definitely challenge you guys in general to think about, what does thriving look like for you? Envision yourself right now as somebody that is thriving in this field. What does that person look like? What do they sound like? How do they act? You envision yourself as that person, and definitely feel free to share it in the chat if you'd like to chat about that. All right. So I have one more question. I'm going to ask all of my panelists this question. And I usually love to talk about this on my social media, because the younger version of myself, that girl, she was full of life, and sometimes life just got sucked out of me, but also she learned a lot along the way. So I will say that. So the question I'm going to ask the panelists as the last question is, what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self, your younger ECE self, when you first started out as an ECE? I'm going to start with Sophie.
The first thing I would tell her is to leave the work at work. Stop bringing art prep home. Stop making birthday boards at home. Stop doing all that stuff at home. Really start figuring out, what do you actually need in a classroom? Do you need fancy bulletin boards? Do you need prepped art a week in advance? No. Start realizing what you need, and remember who you are. Remember how you were raised. Remember your connections and how you feel about children. Don't let other educators tell you it's enough, all done. No, thank you. Be yourself. Use your voice how you feel it's important. So that's what I would tell her. And honestly, stop taking that work home. Come on, take your lunch.
We can go all day and just say a bunch of that stuff, right? I love that, Sophie. All right. Taylor, how about you? What would you say to your younger ECE self?
I think for me, when I was young and starting off in my career, I put a lot of pressure, like Sophie was saying, on making sure that everything was perfect. So I think that I would say, don't strive for perfection, strive for progress, and literally take it one day at a time. One day at a time. At the end of the day, leave it at work, come back the next day fresh. Don't continue to bring it in, because that is just it doesn't end well for anybody.
Yep, absolutely. I love that. I love that. All right, Lisa, what would you tell your younger ECE self?
I would say invest in a really good espresso machine. You're going to need the caffeine. No, I'm just kidding. That too. But kind of along the same lines as everyone was saying, but be you. Sharon just said it, I think too. But set goals for yourself and stay on your own journey. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Set your own goals, your own path, your own journey, and stay on it. And just bring your passion to the children and never forget you're there because you are making a difference. And that's what I would say.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. All right, Shelby, what would you tell your younger ECE self?
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to do two. One, I would tell myself, take your holidays. It's okay. They don't care that you're there 365 days. They miss you those 14 days that you're gone. And they're really going to notice what work that you do, whether it's perfect, whether it's progress. They're going to miss you when you're gone. And the most important piece that I would tell myself is no matter what, there's never going to be a good time to leave that job, but you need to do what is best for you, for your growth opportunities, and for your heart. Often we stay in too many toxic relationships with our bosses or our roommates, and we do need to evacuate those for the mental health of ourselves. So that's what I would tell her.
Yeah, that last one is T2. That last one is T2. Younger Anisha spent way too much time in a lot of these spaces that didn't honor my voice. And I think I'll jump in before I give the floor to Natalie. I'll jump in and say that I would tell my younger ECE self to honor your voice and your thoughts because they are valuable, they are important, they are strong, they can create impact and change, for sure. All right, Natalie, tell me what you would tell your younger ECE self.
I think I would tell my younger ECE self that there's a spot for you. There's space for you somewhere. There's somewhere where it's kind of similar to what Shelby was saying, what Anisha was saying, just being in workplaces where you're like, what are we doing? What, this is a child care center. Like, do you guys remember who we're working with and who we're fighting for? You know what I mean? So I think I've been in a lot of places where I was just kind of like, am I the problem? Am I too kind? Am I too nice? Am I like what is happening around me? So I think I would tell myself that there's a place, there's somewhere, there's organizations, there's places that have the same vision, that have the same understanding, who do what we do, the reasoning why I want to do it, specifically for the children, to support our community and all that stuff, and just remembering that as well. And something that I tell families, and I think we should use it ourselves, is I say to them when they're starting childcare, not every childcare center is for every child, and it doesn't mean the childcare center is bad. So it's something I tell when I was a supervisor in childcare. I would say that I'm in early on now, and some of the parents come in very nervous about their child starting childcare. And I say, not every childcare center is for every child. It is okay if you think it doesn't blend with the way that you think the support you think your child needs. And it's the same thing for educator. Not every workplace is for every educator. So there's some educators that thrive in certain places. They need that. They need someone to be firm and be that I don't know what to call it, but there's some educators that can stay in those places for years and they're content, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's follow your heart. If you feel like there's no way that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, so I would just tell myself to keep looking, because there's a place for you. There's somewhere that is going to support the way that you view the child and you view the early years.
I love it. I love it. You can see why I said this team is powerful. This team is so powerful. They come with such diverse backgrounds and voices, just like every single one of you guys. So that's all the questions I have for the panelists. And I think we can go all day on it. But I wanted to, first of all, say a big thank you to the ECC advisors that have joined us today to talk about thriving and shining in ECE. I definitely want each of you guys listening to be sure that you take a moment within yourself after we shut our laptops down, our computers down, to really ask yourself two questions. What does thriving and shining look like for you? as an early childhood educator, and as I mentioned before, what is your why? What is keeping you here? What is keeping you motivated? And all of that great stuff. Oh, you're welcome, Sharon. I love the fact that the ECC is slowly becoming people's safe space, because that's exactly what we're trying to embody in this brand. All right, so I'm going to share my screen really quick for a couple of slides just to kind of wrap it up here at the ECC. And I also want to thank all of you guys for being here. Thank you for joining us this evening. You didn't have to, but you are here, and we do it for you guys. So I'm going to ask my wonderful assistant to put a link in the chat for the ECC Learning Lounge survey. So as I mentioned, this is our last ECC Learning Lounge, and boy, did we kick it off very well. We have a survey that we actually like to share for you guys to give us feedback on what you want to see at the ECC Learning Lounge. This was the first year that we did it every single month. And we had, you know, our advisors and our facilitators in the brand speak. We had some amazing guest speakers pop in from different industries and different backgrounds to give their expertise. We had a really great time. So I want you guys to, when you have a moment, fill out our survey. Let us know about how we're doing with the ECC Learning Lounge, as well as showcase and show us what other topics you want to see for 2025. We're already starting to plan for the new year and what that looks like for the brand. And we want to be sure that these experiences complement what your goals are as early childhood professionals. So definitely take a moment, fill out that survey, give us your feedback. So the ECC Learning Lounge is normally free. It's all of them are free. But of course, if you ever want to give to the cause, we do have a buy the ECC a coffee button as well. Feel free. It's like a little tip jar for us to say good job, and we can all buy ourselves a coffee. So definitely, if you feel compelled to, you can go ahead and click that link. And then some very, very exciting news. So last year we as a team, we said, you know what, we want to do something a little bit different, a little bit out there when it comes to events for the ECC. So last year we did our very first ECC virtual summit, and it was a ball. It was this that we had, but times 100. Okay. So because we had so much fun last year, we're going to do it again next year. So I'm so excited to announce that the ECC will be hosting a virtual summit next year, January 17th to January 19th. So it's 3 days full of amazing experiences. Tickets will be available end of this month, so definitely keep watch on our social pages to know when the tickets will actually drop. Tickets will be the same format. They're completely free. Or if you want to upgrade your experience to the VIP experience, we do have that option. But the tickets will be on sale. And I think what's really, really great about this experience is it's the same community that you're feeling here right now during the summit, as well as we've added some cooler elements. We're going to have these amazing ladies speaking about their field and all of that stuff and their expertise, but we're also bringing some guest speakers in as well. We're going to have a couple of live interviews. So for my friends that love the podcast feel, we're going to get an opportunity to do some live interviews with some outside individuals and guest speakers. We're going to have some guest speaker roundtables. So if there's anybody in the audience that has ever thought about ECE entrepreneurship, starting your own business, we're actually doing a whole roundtable on what it is to be an ECE entrepreneur with some really great household names in the field. As per normal, our workshops with our team will be interactive, full of good vibes and good music. So definitely keep watch on the tickets when they drop for that. And then that's it. I want to just say thank you so much to all of you guys. I see your social media handles in the chat as well. Be sure to follow us everywhere. There will be certificates available for this session. Be sure to email our team with your first and last name. Make sure it connects to the registration that you signed up with for this to get your certificate. And we'll be working all week long this week to get your certificates out. But yeah, continue to thrive and shine as early childhood professionals, and let's continue having the community together. But anyways, thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening, and we will connect really soon. Thank you guys. All right. Oh.